Welcome.
Welcome back.
We got this is a shorter one today. It's by Illustrious Ice 4720. He wrote the one about the corpses in the spaceship. That one was pretty good. So I got high expectations for this one.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one too. It's called "It Won't Stop Raining," and I'm the only one left.
Seems pretty cool.
I think it's another kind of like Lovecraftian thing. I talked to him last time. I talked to him, he said he really likes Lovecraftian horror and all that stuff, and it really shines through in his writing.
Yeah, you can see.
Anyways, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. I spend my days watching the rain, finding that it operates differently than it should. Despite the constant downpour for the past 2 months, I've yet to see any flooding. Nothing is even wet. But what else could it be besides rain? It smells like rain, feels like rain, it tastes like rain, it sounds like rain, but it just isn't rain. It's something more. At first I didn't care about the rain. I was just happy. I worked from home and I didn't have to drive in it. I remember laughing as I looked down from my apartment window as my neighbors rushed to their cars, eager to get out of the downpour. A parking lot once filled with cars soon found itself desolate, with only a few cars remaining to shield it from the increasing intensity of the rain. I booted up my computer, locked in, and before I knew it, I was clocking out at 7 p.m. I passed my window on my way out, only sparing a glance at the outside world. What I saw caused me to freeze in my tracks. Not a single car had returned. The parking lot was still sitting mostly empty. Bizarre. Strange even, but something I could ignore. Maybe there was an apartment event I missed. Maybe there was a crash on the interstate delaying everyone. Maybe the apartment gates were malfunctioning, or maybe the storm caused a flash flood somewhere beneath the apartment complex's hill. The list went on and on. I just didn't care, choosing to sit in my room playing on my Switch as the storm continued to slam rain into my window. The screens did very little to dampen the torrent of rain, a sound like thousands of fingernails tapping my windows. The storm soothed my mind, though. There's nothing like falling asleep to a storm. Morning came, but the storm from yesterday still going. I rose from my bed, eager to start my morning routine. Shorts, shirt, brush my teeth, and watch everyone rush to their cars as I sipped my coffee. Filling my cup, I made my way to the window, taking a preemptive sip. I looked out my window, expecting a full parking, bustling with life. Instead, I found an empty parking lot. The few cars that remained from yesterday were gone. Only my car and a truck remained. Where did everyone go? I asked myself, looking down at my phone to seek answers, only to get 0 bars. I rushed over to my computer, terrified I missed an evacuation order, only to find I didn't have Wi-Fi as well. My lights flickered before shutting off, the only light entering my home coming from the choked sun behind the storm clouds. My apartment complex sat deathly quiet. What was once a building filled with the stomping of feet, doors closing, and people going about their lives, now was filled with the sound of rain slamming against the roof, the windows, the walls, as if the storm itself was desperate to break into my home. Hours passed before I heard a sound breaking through the rain, the sound of a man and a woman laughing and playing outside.
Watch them from the window, mostly out of pure boredom, before rising from my chair to leave once it clicked. With me that a grown man watching 2 people play was a bit creepy. I returned to my window an hour later, hoping that some people had returned to the apartment complex. What I saw instead was the same couple playing just an hour before, seemingly, floating in the air, their faces pointing to the ground. I waited, my heart pounding as I watched them float. They... Hmm? As I watched, they floated. Okay. Into each other, the collision causing them to float away, rushing to my door. I put on my raincoat before running out of my apartment, hoping to rescue them from whatever happened. My front door slammed behind me, the sound muffled by the intense storm. I was about to enter. I was about to take a step outside into the rain, only to be stopped by a body floating towards me from the corner of my eye. It was a young man's. Oh, it was the young man's. His skin was pale, in uneven patches, though his lips and fingernails had bluish bruises. His mouth hung slightly open, not in a scream, but rather as if it was emptied out of any intention of any life. His clothes clung to his body unnaturally tight, as if he was dunked in a pool and pulled out seconds later. Yet, he was still dry, despite being actively rained upon. Getting on my knees, I looked into his eyes, unfortunately confirming my suspicions. His eyes had grown cloudy, yet still maintained fine red fractures. There wasn't a soul to save anymore. Rising again, I felt myself grow lightheaded, as if I sprinted a marathon. I fell backward into the apartment walls. Desperate to regain my breath, I coughed, yet nothing came up, my mind beginning to grow cloudy. I turned and rushed up the stairs, only to the third step did I feel my lungs fill with air again. My legs began to shake as what I saw began to dawn on me. The sight of a dead body settling itself inside of me. I sprinted up the stairs, cursing myself for getting an apartment on the 4th floor. Running into my home, I desperately tried to call 911, only for no one to answer. I tried again, and again, and again, praying that somehow, some way, someone would come to explain what happened to that couple. Yet, no one came. Not the police, not an ambulance, not even my neighbors. I huddled in my room, the sound of rain only adding to the chaos in my mind. Hours passed before I was able to build up the courage to look out my window again, only to regret it moments later. I found my neighbors. They must have had the same idea as me when they saw the two bodies floating in the air. Only, unlike me, they must have went into the rain. What was two bodies was now a couple dozen, floating with their faces pointed at the ground. I watched as a man across the street sprinted out of his home with an umbrella, rushing into his truck. The truck was quick to roar with life. He backed up and sped off. He didn't get far, however, maintaining a straight path for only a few seconds before veering off and slamming into a tree. I saw the man run out of his car, gripping his throat and gagging. He clawed at it, prying open his mouth with his hand, using them to manually open up his throat. He gave up quickly as panic set in, moving to give himself the Heimlich before slamming into his car and falling to the asphalt. He attempted to crawl on the ground, desperate to escape whatever was possessing his body. But there wasn't any use. Within minutes, he stopped moving, floating upwards to join the...
Do you want me to read this part, or do you want to...
Bro, I ended that, like, perfectly, bro, for you to bastard.
Okay, my bad.
Bro,
God.
You ruined the flow, man. You ruined the flow.
Fuck. Flown upward to join the rest of our neighbors in the air. His body stopped slightly above his truck, his head clunking against the car's hard metal like a boat against the dock. It's the rain. It's the rain, I said to myself as I backed away from the window, turning to run out of my house to warn my neighbors. My fist slammed against their doors, praying anyone was home. The echoes of my fists broke the loud orchestra of the rain, but no one responded. I started to yell for help, screaming for anyone to come out of their homes. I went to each floor, my legs burning as I ascended up my apartment building. My steps shook the apartment stairs as I sprinted up them, panic setting deep within my heart. No one was answering. "Please, anyone, is anyone there?" I cried out as I continued my climb. I began slamming the palm of my hands frantically against each door I found. I gripped my hands together, a painful burn setting in, but I didn't care. I darted to each door, slamming on them for only a few seconds before moving to the next. I knew if anyone was there, I would be scaring them, but it didn't matter. I needed proof I wasn't going to fight this nightmare alone. "Does anyone hear me?" I screamed, my legs beginning to burn as I continued my frantic climb, praying that the final floor would have someone still alive. The first door I came across, I began kicking down, aiming my foot near the doorknob, hoping I could break it in. The sounds of my assault echoed throughout the apartment, the sounds of wood and metal cracking beneath my foot. "Please, anyone, come out. I can't be the only one left." I cried, my kicks losing power as I began to break down. Tears began streaming down my face, blurring my vision. My foot missed the handle, slamming it directly into the door frame. Pain erupted throughout my leg as I screamed, falling to the floor as I gripped my throbbing leg. Though, despite the noise I was making, no one came to investigate. Not a single soul responded to my desperate cries. No one came to help me. My only company was the storm. Rain that used to bring me comfort, now the cause of my terror. I don't know how long I sat there crying before I got up, making my way back to my apartment. I crawled into my bed defeated, my body and brain tired from what I had seen and experienced. As my eyes closed, I prayed for relief in my dreams, hoping that I could see the sun again. Instead, my dreams were filled with rain, my body frozen in place as I was forced to look outside. I heard whispers, coming from between the raindrops, demanding I leave my home, that I come outside for a deep breath of fresh air. They promised me that they could make this nightmare end. I just needed to go outside one last time. Rain continued to slam against my window, small cracks appearing as I watched in terror. The glass burst inward, showering me in glass shards as I screamed, only to wake up from my dream covered in sweat.
Days passed as I adapted to a new routine: eat, sleep, and watch the rain from my window. I tried to sleep, but even in my dreams I couldn't escape the sounds of the downpour outside. My dreams were always the same: a storm of whispers within the rain demanding I leave my home, ending with my windows breaking from its assault. Moving to my window with my morning cold brew coffee, I scanned the apartment complex for life, my eyes falling on something coming from the outskirts of the apartment complex. I felt the coffee cup fall from my hand, shattering against my floor as I held my hands to my mouth in terror. It was thousands of human bodies, all floating into my apartment complex. They had died a long time ago, their bodies showing advanced forms of decay. Their skin was pale, swollen, and beginning to peel away as layers of skin found themselves filled with water. Their faces had begun to bloat, their cheeks, lips, and eyes popping out as they filled with the gas from decay. Most had lost the majority of their hair, their heads now clinging to the few strands they had left. The bodies bumped and bobbed between the apartment buildings, getting caught in the stairways and escape ladders. Even though the rain, I could hear them, the sounds of rotten flesh being crushed as it made contact with the metal stairs below me. Their bodies weren't the worst part. It was where they were. These bodies had risen, now floating a couple floors below me. Their gray eyes looked up at me, as if questioning why I wasn't out there with them. I noticed one body looked familiar. The realization dawning on me. I had to be sure. Reaching into my desk, I pulled out a flashlight, moving back to my window to shine it on one of the bodies. My worst suspicion was confirmed. It was the truck guy from days ago that tried to escape. The rain was causing the bodies to rise. The stairway in front of my window suddenly erupted in life. A living person had bolted out of their house and started sprinting down the stairway. Her eyes were locked onto me as she continued her run, skipping stairs as she made her way down. She must have seen my flashlight, my heart beginning to race as I realized I was no longer alone. My heart was quick to freeze in fear, however, as I noticed what she was wearing: a light yellow sundress. She didn't have any protection from the rain. She was going to end up like that truck driver. I banged my fists against the window, screaming for her to turn around before her skin made contact with the rain. But it wasn't any use. The downpour muffled any noise I made, forcing me to watch helplessly as I watched her make it to the ground and begin running across the road. It took seconds of being subjected to the rain before I saw her stop, her hands clawing at her throat. Her body swayed back and forth between each step, her hands reaching towards me as she made an attempt to cry for help. Her body slowly collapsed in the parking lot, but she didn't give up, resorting to a pitiful crawl. Pitiful crawl. She almost made it to the apartment building before her body gave out. I watched as her body slowly began to float, joining the ocean of corpses now below my window. I placed my hands on the window, sniffling. Sniveling? What is that? What's that word? Sniveling?
Like sniveling, like
Like sniffling?
like sort of like, you know, when you get the boogers coming out your nose when you're crying. It's like getting those back up, I guess. I think.
Okay. As I felt tears well up in my eyes once again, I watched a little bit of hope I had vanish before me, my mind descending into despair. I balled my hands into fists, slamming them against the window as I let out a wail of misery. I slammed them into my window again and again and again, continuing until I heard my window crack against the assault. Oh no, dumbass.
I didn't care anymore. My hands moving to grip the handle of my window to open it. I wanted this nightmare to be over. All I needed to do was open the window, right? I felt the rain slam into me, my body growing cold from the downpour, yet my skin never became wet. I stood motionless, letting the storm bathe my body as I waited for death. A minute passed, then 2, then 5. I looked up at the rain clouds in desperation, then back down at the floating bodies. The bravery of confronting my death was quickly diminishing as I fell down to my knees in front of my window. Why aren't you taking me? I demanded. Please, I want to go. Now, just take me. Yet death never came. Even after letting the rain touch me for longer than it touched the truck driver, or the woman. Why? Why wouldn't it kill me? I don't know how long I sat there before I closed the window, my heart sinking as I knew the nightmare will continue for as long as the rain chose for me to live. I spent the rest of the day weeping, praying for God to come free me as the storm, free me as the storm? I guess from the storm, as if taunting me grew more fierce outside. I think it's been a month now since that day. Most of the food in my fridge had rotted away, forcing me to leave my home to raid other apartments. I held on to a glimmer of hope that maybe one apartment would still have a living human to keep me sane, but I found myself settling with talking to the corpses rising to my floor instead. Another month passed, and I knew every corpse by name. George and Abby from the couple, Roberto, the truck driver, but Rebecca, I grew very fond of her. Oh. She's outside my window right now, staring at me, wearing her gorgeous yellow sundress. The other corpses rose with her, their rotting eyes doing little to hide their envy that I got to live, and they didn't. Obviously, the rain chose me over them, but for what reason, I don't know. All I do now is eat, sleep, and talk to the woman that tried so hard to get to me, the chosen one. I wish I could have saved her, but the rain did not choose her. She's so close now. I just can't resist opening my window, just so I can touch her. Ugh. I threw up my window, reaching out to Rebecca to try pulling her body into my apartment. I've talked to her for over a month now. She said it was alright. Oh! The rain stung my eyes, my heart quickening as my head grew lightheaded from embracing the rain again. I felt my body slowly have its strength sapped away, one of my hands instinctively going for my throat as I felt it harder and harder to breathe. I was breathing in air, but it felt as if my body wasn't processing it, as if my lungs were filling with water. That was cool.
That was sick.
I think what was happening is that since they couldn't touch the water, like the rain, the reason it didn't take him is because it hadn't gotten up to him yet. So like it was filling up slowly, right? And that's the only reason he, because they got at the bottom, like they were floating lower and like they would slowly rise up higher and higher.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think it was just like invisible water that would just like kill them. You
Oh,
know,
kind of.
or I guess
So,
that's my guess.
so it wasn't the rain. It was the. I'm really.
Like as the rain, you can't feel it, right? Like they couldn't feel it as it fell down. You couldn't see it. So like they were just drowning. That's my guess. It was just like invisible, or you can't feel it, but it's there. You can't really.
Oh,
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
it
yeah.
was slowly flooding the world, right? And that's why they were slowly going upwards.
Oh, you're right.
That's
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that.
and
Yeah, that's.
well that was my guess. As soon as he opened the door at the bottom, how like he was like floating there, right? And he couldn't breathe, so he ran upstairs and he could breathe again. That's where I thought that from.
Okay, I didn't even notice that. That's
Mm.
that's sick, actually. That's really
I, I
cool.
I really like this
I like
story.
this one a lot. This one, honestly, this one was a lot stronger than his ship one. I did like his ship one, but it felt a lot more all over the place. I remember. I think
Yeah,
it felt a lot more rushed. Where
rushed near the end.
this one didn't feel rushed. This one
Yeah, I
felt
agree. I
very
agree.
well thought out. I will say, the part with the girl seems a little weird.
I think it's to like indicate that he was like losing his shit, right? Like his
Yeah,
mind was
I
just
get
gone.
that, but it felt kind of like out of left pocket. You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair.
It felt kind of just like out of nowhere. I mean, I get it is a short story, so like, you want to add that like layer quick, where you're like, oh yeah, he's going crazy, by the way,
Yeah.
type thing. But I still feel like it was a little weird that
Fair.
having him just kind of like obsess over her in like the last kind of paragraph out of nowhere
Yeah.
felt a little weird. I don't know. I can't even really criticize this because you honestly put a lot of thought into this. It worked. It works really well. The one thing I will say, you have a typo. Just
There's a few slight typos, but
no,
it's like
there's just
whatever.
the one typo that was the biggest one. Oh, it was the one you read. Hang on, a second.
Um. Oh, but like the
About the storm.
uh, praying for God to come free me as the storm, as if taunting me grew more fierce outside. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know if that was a typo. Hang on. To live, I spent the rest of the day weeping, praying for God to come free me as the storm. As the storm, as if taunting me, grew more fierce outside. Okay, never mind. That's not a typo. It just sounds a little weird.
I, That's fair. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I read it wrong.
No, that's it, man. That was sick. I actually enjoyed that a lot.
I did as well.
I think if you did like a long form of this, not like long, but if you extended it, and you could like if you gave us like more about like more parts of the city, you could honestly add more layers to the story just by adding different perspectives.
Yeah, like different locations and shit.
Yeah, like if you maybe adding her perspective of what was going
That'd be
on,
cool.
and then like that'd be cool. Like if
What?
you,
Yeah. What's causing the rain? You know.
yeah, even if you did a prequel where it was like her perspective of the storm, and then her running out, and then seeing him, and then dying, and then that kind of then that could carry over into this one and his perspective of that, right?
That'd be cool.
I feel like that could have been cool. Or if you added kind of like a past thing where like he knew he knew her before and he had a crush on her, or had a thing for her or whatever, and then that kind of happens. That could have added almost like a more like a different level of urgency to the situation and despair, right?
Yeah.
Instead of her just kind of being random.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who she is.
She's just a random.
Yeah,
lady
just
with,
like a random
yellow
lady,
hair.
and then he's like kind of randomly obsessing over her. So I feel like if you added like a prequel where it was like before the storm a little bit, and then it was her perspective, and then it could build up to her running outside and then dying, and then it can move into this story.
Mm.
And then his side would make a little more sense.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That's just like I don't know. That just kind of be like flushing the story out, like making it longer. Not even flushing it out, just kind of making it longer, so you had more time with it. But this is sick. You should write. I was thinking of something you should write when we were. You should write like almost like an apocalypse story type thing. I think you
That'd
could
be
write
sick.
a really badass apocalypse story. like something with like zombies, or like I know you like Lovecraftian, so even like kind of like a Lovecraftian invasion of like some,
They take people over or some
yeah,
shit.
like Dagon, like almost if you did like fish people or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, I think that could be sick. Like the fish people taking over.
Is that what happens in Dagon? Like this, like people
Mm,
of Atlantis come back or something?
not exactly. We'll get to that one because I know you haven't read it.
Okay.
We'll get there, but that's about all I have to say. I like this a lot actually, and
Me too.
that's about all I can really give you feedback on. If you want to reach out to me and like talk to me about any more of it, feel free. But I think you could definitely write some really cool shit. So, anyways, that's all we got for today. We'll be back again soon with some more stories. We gotta go. We gotta go message some more people. If you guys have any suggestions or any stories, any new stories you've been working on, you want to send us, again, you can just leave it in the comments. You can message us on Reddit, or you can email us. Any works. But that's it. Do you have anything you want to say, Ben?
Um, Nah, not really. And the story was awesome. I enjoyed it. This guy's pretty wicked sick at writing stories. Oh, we gotta say the like, subscribe, friggin' YouTube stuff. You guys know how it is.
Cringe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's about it. That's about it.
All right, guys. Catch you.